Hello everyone, Tim here from Welcome to the Table, and today we are once again in my car to listen to me ramble about things. The camera's back to where it was before. I had a look at the footage from the previous video, and it wasn't much better. If anything, it actually looked like it was worse. So I've got a different contortion setup for the tripod, and we'll see if that works. Yeah. Today I want to talk about filler games. What makes a good filler game? What are the ones we like to use? What do I mean by that? Well, filler games are games you use on a game day when you're having a bunch of people over to play a bunch of board games. And you want to take breaks in between the big games. Take it from me, when you're setting up an afternoon, an evening, or a day or a weekend for people to come down and play board games, you don't want to play back-to-back big game. You'll burn people out. Drinking some strawberry lemonade. One of my favorite things about Wendy's. Yeah. You wanna be able to take breaks in between the big games. Give people time to decompress. It may sound weird to say it. It may sound weird, but too much thinking, too much puzzling all at once can wear you out. So, we like to use other games, lighter games generally, less strategy, less hardcore competitiveness. Well, equally as competitive, but not quite as puzzly and strategy-based, to mix things up. Generally, the ones we use are pretty quick. And, yeah, I want to talk about that. So, what I consider a filler game is a game with simple enough rules, not too complicated that you have to learn the thing again every single time. So simple rules, plays under an hour, and usually the ones that I like to use, that everybody at the table just kind of laugh and have a good time. You want to relax. That's kind of the point of a filler game. You've had a big, stressful, heavy game, and you want to take a break and relax. So you want everyone having a good time. Games with props tend to do well. This area is really rough roads, so I apologize in advance if it's shakier than usual or if any of this is getting picked up by the microphone. But, yeah, so games with props generally, do some good here, or just, like I said, games where the strategy isn't really that relevant. Our main go-to, we have a couple of them that we use a lot. One is Shadowhunters. Again, I've done a video showing us playing it. That actually was, around in between some big games. Another that we like to use is Liar's Dice. Liar's Dice is great. All you need is a handful of dice for each player and a cup for each player. you know, you get any of those plastic cups. Again, simple rules. Lets people laugh and joke and shout while playing. Have a good time. Let's see. What other ones? We have Masquerade. We use. That game can take 15 minutes. You know, sometimes takes longer, but doesn't always. And is just ridiculous. You know, you can take Masquerade as seriously as you want to, but no matter how serious you take it, or don't, the mechanics of the game make it so that it's still, like, fair for everybody if one person's playing to win and everyone else are just playing to have fun. It's still fair because it's random nonsense. And it's funny. What's some other ones we use? Cash and Guns is one that we'll use every now and then. I haven't played it too much. But that game's great because you just get to point phone guns at each other and threaten each other the entire time. And make, like, Godfather jokes and things like that the whole time. So that's funny. Also takes about half an hour. Crossing is another one that I picked up not that long ago that has been pretty good. Crossing is a stupidly simple game. Takes 15 minutes to play. I've mentioned Crossing a few times now. I probably should explain it just so that people kind of understand where I'm coming from it with it. So with Crossing, everyone takes a little square cardboard card that's a fantasy race, and then at the table, on the table, there are going to be these circular mushroom tiles, about this big, one less than the number of players. Every round, a number of gems get put on these tiles, and at the same time, you go 1, 2, 3, point, and everyone points at one of the tiles on the table. If you're the only one pointing at a tile, you get what's on that tile. You take the gems, put them on your race sheet, race card. That's a weird thing to say. Tile. That works better. If so much as one other person is pointing at the same tile as you, neither of you get it. And then things get interesting. Because I said tiles, and the race things are also tiles. So if you want to, you could point at someone else's stash. And if you're the only one pointing at it, you get it. But if someone else is trying to do the same thing, then, it just sits there. So there's a bit of push your luck thing there of how much do you think other people want your loot. And if you're not willing to risk it, you can instead spend your turn covering up your tile, which lets you bank your gems, meaning they're safe. But then you flip your tile over and don't play the next round, which does weird things too, because if one person's banked and is out of the round, then you'll be down to an equal number of tiles as players. So if you all talk and agree, you could say, oh, I want this tile, do you want this one? Okay, and you can just kind of agree to that, but no one ever does. People always want more. There's always going to be one tile that's really valuable that no one wants to give up, and then if two people back out, then that's even more likely. But then you get into the thing of, all right, do I go for the most valuable tile, knowing that someone else is probably going to go for the most valuable tile? Maybe I go for the second most valuable tile because, people are going to go for the most valuable tile, and then I shouldn't have any competition for the second most valuable tile, but then other people are going to be thinking that as well. And you're going to go for a tile that might have 2 gems on it. The other guy's going to go for the same tile. Meanwhile, someone, because they just went for the most valuable tile, is going to get one and take away 5 gems, of different colors to cash in, and it's going to be stupid. But the game's 15 minutes. It's a quick game, it's a funny game, it gets everybody laughing, and that's the kind of thing that you want as a filler game. Push your luck games generally work pretty well. We just started playing Ink and Gold. Is it Ink and Gold or is it Diamant? That one's weird. So there's a few different versions of the same thing. There's Diamant and Ink and Gold. I think we've got Ink and Gold. We've got the one that has the relic cards. Either way, I don't remember off the top of I don't remember offhand which one it is. But that game we enjoyed. I think we enjoyed a fair bit because it was, again, it was a push your luck thing. How lucky do you feel? How much are you willing to risk this for? Whatever, how long do you stay in? When do you back out? When are other people going to back out? And do you think you can outlast them? Or do you want to back out sooner so that you can maybe pick up a relic on the way out? Sorry. Because if more than one people leave the temple at the same time and there's a relic available, neither of you get it. But if one person leaves on their own, then they get the relic. It's nonsense, and it's all over the place, and it was a good time. And I'm going to see if I can get my friend to bring it to we're planning a board game session in a week and a bit. It'll be a 4-player game session. So there's a few games that we don't usually get to do because we usually have more than 4 that we're going to try and I'm going to bring to try and play, and I'm going to ask him to bring a bunch of his as well. And then maybe I'll get some recordings of those. Yeah, so you don't have to stick with just board games either. You can. I have a Nintendo Switch, and on the Switch I've got games like Mario Kart. Leveling games, not leveling games, leveler games that people will be familiar with, and people can drop in, drop out. If someone doesn't want to play, they can just sit and watch, and it relaxes everybody, gets you laughing, gets you having fun, kind of keeps that going. What other ones do I have? Oh yeah, I did just pick up Skull recently. I did talk. I think I mentioned Skull in the intro to board gaming video that I did. If I didn't, I plan on doing another. I've got on my list an episode to talk about for bluffing games or push your luck games. I think I want to do a separate episode about those. Skull was a good one in my opinion. Some of the more party style games, like if you're the kind of person that thinks you're gonna like it, Cards Against Humanity can be good. Just the one thing I will say about Cards Against Humanity is it's very easy to get roped in to keep playing, just continue to play because everyone is laughing and whatever. And that game can go on for hours. I've got the meta game. That was a game that we tried that's got a bunch of different mini games that you can play. I think it was okay, but that game, the game version that we tried, we played the Meta Quilt, and that one went on for a little bit. What other ones? Party style games can work pretty well here, so as filler games. So these are the ones that are generally, they work better with more players. They're, again, ones that you don't take too seriously. So games like Monikers, Fun Employed was one worth trying, where you have to improvise interviews with different character quirks. It was bonkers and it was nonsense, and it was at the very least it was worth trying. Then you have games like Spyfall is another one that can work pretty good as a filler game. Spyfall takes as long as you want it to. Usually 10 minutes around. And you can have some funny moments out of that thing. That was a good one, and it's not too expensive either. What other light games do I have? I'm drawing a blank on a lot of them. Ultimately, the thing I do want to say, what makes good filler games, usually, well, You want a game that's less than an hour. Less than a half an hour is probably even better, so that you can just play maybe a couple rounds of it while you're setting up the next big thing. Yeah, you want games that aren't heavy in strategy. You want games that are appealing, whether because of the components with, you know, props, big handfuls of dice, or chunky gems or treasure, or things like that. You want games that are, the actual play is simple. Crossing is just pointing at a tile on the table. Cash and Guns is picking a card from your hand that's either a bang, which means a bullet, or a click, which means an empty chamber. You have 8 cards for the 8 rounds. You pick one each round, meaning you have 3 bullets during the round. And then you point your gun at someone at the table. Then you get to, so you go 1, 2, 3, point. Everyone points their gun at someone at the table. You look around, see who's got their gun pointed where, who's got their gun pointed at you. Whoever's the Godfather gets to use the Godfather's privilege, which lets them tell one person who's got their gun pointed at them to point it at someone else. They don't get to choose where it goes. They just point that at someone else. They move it, and you go 1, 2, 3. Sorry, that was my phone. Go 1, 2, 3, go, and people decide if they want to stay in or back out, and then at that point you reveal cards to see who shot who. You know, if you didn't get shot, you stay and you divvy up the loot. And they're these big, stylized, non-standard sized cards that have cash or diamonds or a first aid kit or paintings or more bullets. Games like that can work very well. You want something that, there's a term that I get it, man. You don't have to keep texting me. There's a term I've heard bandied about a little bit, beer and pretzel games. That generally describes games where the balance swings back and forth like a seesaw. They're not fair necessarily, and those games can work as filler games, but they can also lead to just people getting frustrated as well. Some games like that, you've got like Wiz War. That's a long game though, so I wouldn't really recommend it anyways as a filler. You've got what's it called? I know what the subtitle is. It's the Battle Wizards Duel at Mount Skull's Fire. I can't remember what the main title of the game is. It's a card game. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm blanking on it right now, but that's another one that can work. It's a card game that sees you casting spells to affect the people at the table, generally indiscriminately. Even games like Love Letter, very simple games, very simple rules, those kinds of games. A lot of entry-level games can work as good filler games because they're entry-level due to the simple fact that they are easy to learn. They're easy to learn, easy to play. I wouldn't usually recommend a game like Pandemic as a filler game, one of those. I wouldn't generally recommend co-op games as filler games because due to the nature of the co-op game, like general design philosophy, most co-op games are puzzles, and that means more thinking and more puzzling over something where all you really wanted to do was take a break. So, yeah, wouldn't really recommend co-op games generally as filler games. You want something competitive, but something usually ridiculous. Those games tend to work pretty well. And I guess while I'm on the subject of filler games, I might as well talk about your actual game days as well. If you are trying to organize something, you know, a day, a weekend, an afternoon even, or just an evening, if you want to try and organize something to get people over to play a bunch of games, there are a couple of things you need to do. The first is to have some filler games ready, so that when a game is finished and you're done, you know, everyone's done the usual talking about the game and you know, what happened during the game and the wind down. During the lull there, in between things, you can break out something quick and easy. So you want to have them ready. You want to make sure, again, that they're easy enough to learn, that people can just kind of jump in or sit out if they need to. So flexible player counts are important. The next important thing is this is going to be a weird thing to say, but figure out who amongst you is the best at teaching things. If you're the one that owns the games, I hope it's you. And this kind of goes back into my intro to board games. You don't want to take too much extra time with the rules explanation, and you don't want people feeling frustrated or confused, because that can sour the mood. And if you're planning on doing this for an evening or a weekend even, you don't want a sour mood because of you know, one game. So make sure you learn the games well. Do not be afraid. And this is something that I still need to learn myself, although I know this is true. Do not be afraid if you're looking around the table and people aren't having fun. Do not be afraid to say, hey guys, we can just stop. We don't have to finish this game. I notice you guys don't look like you're having fun. If that's the case, why don't we pack this game up? Play something else. Have options and be versatile there, because you never really know what people are going to be in the mood for. And the big thing is you want everyone having fun. That's the big point of playing board games, is you want to enjoy the evening. You want to enjoy the time that you are with your friends. So again, if you see them not having fun, do something about it. Don't wait. Say something. Because if they're anything like my friends, they're not gonna say anything themselves. It's on you, whoever's the host, whoever's running the event. It's on you to recognize when people aren't having fun and to do something about it. The next important thing, snacks. Well, snacks and food, but we'll talk about snacks first. Have them. Be smart about them. Plan your meals for an evening, for the weekend. Plan the timing. One of the things that can be so helpful when running these kinds of things is a slow cooker. You can make the food beforehand. You know, the night before, like the morning of the night before. Start it cooking, and time it so that dinner time, food's done. But you've already done all the prep before anybody showed up, or before you had even really sat down to start playing. You've got all the prep done, and when the time hits, you're ready to just serve and eat. That can be huge. There's nothing quite like hitting 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, realizing you haven't had dinner yet, and then having to stop for a half an hour to go cook food. If you plan it and you want to do barbecue or, things normal, like traditional meals, fine. Plan it. Plan ahead. The slow cooker is the easiest way of dealing with this kind of thing, though, because it is set and forget. And if you're hosting, you may forget. But now on the side of snacks, there's a couple of things. You are playing board games, so try not to have anything too messy. Finger food is generally perfect. If you're eating stuff that's maybe greasy, maybe whatever, have napkins, have towels, have any of that stuff with you at the table, so that you don't have to worry about getting the components all gummed up or whatever. Candy works okay. My group actually really likes veggie trays. Well, like mixed vegetables with a dip. We'll buy those every now and then. Hummus is another thing that we do. Get a big box of crackers and some hummus. What other stuff would be used as snacks? You do generally want to avoid sugar. Candy's okay, but you do generally want to avoid sugar because let's say you're playing Twilight Imperium. You're halfway through the game. By halfway through, I mean probably 4 hours in. And people have been eating candy during the day. They are going to crash. The sugar rush will happen, and then the sugar crash will happen. It is inevitable. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. It was a very poor decision. And you don't want to be falling asleep at the table because you've just crashed. Drinks are another important thing. Make sure you have a decent variety for, some people don't like sodas. Some people don't like cola or whatever. So, have some variety, juice, milk, tea, coffee, if that's your taste. Caffeine is another thing to be careful about, because just like sugar, you can crash, and you want people, alert as they can be. But have all this stuff prepared. Have all this stuff. There's nothing wrong with bringing an end table down to have this stuff set up near the table so that people can get up from the table and get some snacks during some of the bigger games. Don't just sit there the whole time. Getting up and stretching can do you loads of wonders. Get the blood flowing. Stand up at the table for a little bit. That can be good. Playing games that get you up and moving can also have some merit. So there's kind of the moral of it. Good filler games are easy to learn, generally quick to play, not too heavy in strategy, and give you opportunity to just have ridiculous nonsense fun with the people at the table. If you're hosting an event, be prepared. Have snacks, have food set up. A schedule can actually be useful. Plan your day. Plan for if you're going to cook your meal. Plan for it. Don't just say, all right, it's 6:30 at night. We're halfway through this game, but let's stop so we can eat food. As much as you can, plan around the time. If it's 4:30 and you're starting up another game, don't play a game that takes 2 hours or more, because that can interfere with your dinner time. Not everybody wants to eat at the same time, so having something like chilies, soups, stews, things like that, pulled pork, that people can just get up from the table, grab a bowl, and eat at their own pace, that can work really well too. Keeps the flow going. Snacks are good. Be careful with sugar and be careful with caffeine. And drinks, make sure you have a variety of them. This ended up being a lot more than just filler games. I hope I remember to make a note about it being filler games and hosting. But anyway, I am Tim from Welcome to the Table, and you've been in my car listening to me ramble about things and really bounce between topics this time. I hope you've gotten some use out of this. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time.